Amy, welcome back into the back room.
Hey, great to be with you.
Or should I say, U.S. Senate candidate Amy, welcome
That's
back into the
right.
back room. Yeah.
As of a few
So,
weeks ago.
yeah. So tell us about the campaign. How's it going?
I think it's going really well. I mean, people, one, a lot of Americans and a lot of Kentuckians are exhausted with what's going on. And even though Kentucky's a red state, as what's happening right now isn't what a lot of people voted for.
Right.
Okay. And so we're all sort of feeling that. And so launching this campaign, I think, is exciting because it's an open seat, and Kentuckians have a real opportunity here to have somebody in there who's going to be a voice for, Kentucky and not for, I don't know, Mar-a-Lago. Uh,
Right. And so what was the moment, or was there a catalyst where you said, I want to run?
if things were better in Kentucky, I would not be running.
Mhm.
Things are worse. What the federal government has done under this Trump administration is hurting people here. And it's more than just, I mean, we talk a lot about the unconstitutional things that Donald Trump's doing, the attacks on the
Mhm.
rule of law, the attacks on
Mhm.
the press, all of that stuff. It's terrible. The politicization of our military in ways I've never seen. That's terrible.
Mhm.
But a lot of the policies that have been pushed down really hurt my state. The tariffs are just devastating to Kentucky farmers, to our bourbon industry, to our manufacturing. I mean, it hurts, and it hurts us in our pocketbooks. And then you add in this bill that was just passed over the summer. Okay. This big, beautiful betrayal bill, whatever you want to call
Mhm.
it. It guts healthcare in Kentucky. 1 in 3 Kentuckians are on Medicaid. We're now looking at 35 rural hospitals at risk of closure. So, I mean, and that's just right off the start, you know. And I looked at all of that and I was like, are you kidding me? This isn't what people voted for. This is going in the wrong direction. And yes, I've run before. I know how to do this. Uh, I have to stand up. I can't just sit back on my front porch and just sort of watch all this happen and just, and that's where I felt like, all right, we need to do this. We need to give Kentuckians a choice.
Do you think, and are you getting a sense, at least in your state, that folks are just it's the economy. It's like what Carville said. It's the economy stupid. And that the economy is going to play a major part on Tuesday in the gubernatorial elections in Jersey and Virginia and other elections elsewhere in New York City mayoral race with Zoran Mamdani. But are you getting a sense that Kentucky Republicans are just like, I don't want to hear about crap that doesn't affect my kitchen table, right? And that's what they're focusing on right now. I think across the country too, right?
Yeah, I mean, the other side, I don't know what they're focused. They're all over the place.
Hmm.
First of all, the 3 Republicans in this race had a chance to be in a forum with this week, and it was it was all about Kentucky manufacturing, and all 3 of them were, oh, we're behind Donald Trump with these tariffs, 100%. And everybody in that room is like, are you kidding me? This
Right.
is hurting our industry. And they can't seem to stand up for everyday people because of this. And so, when I've been out talking to people around the state, and I talk to a lot of Trump voters. I talk to a lot of Republicans because it's Kentucky. I talk to a lot of independents as well, not just Democrats.
Hmm.
Um, I I ask them, what are we seeing from folks in power right now? Is this what you voted for? Did you vote for higher prices? Because that's what we're getting. Did you vote for the president to go buy beef from Argentina? To bail out
After giving them
Argentina
$40
with
billion.
with $40 billion.
Right.
Meanwhile, we're cutting SNAP benefits because the the government shut down, where they just voted for less health care for you, for more taxes in the form of tariffs, for putting our rural hospitals at risk of closure. Is this what you voted for? Because this is what we're getting. So it's kind of a simple thing.
And
Simple
are they
message.
angry enough to be engaged, to get out of bed, get in a car, go to the polls, and vote against a party and candidates they voted for last time?
Well, that's the big question, right? Is what is it? Because we're a year out from the elections of 2026, and but what I hear a lot from people, from Trump voters, from people who vote Republican typically, is he's gone too far. I hear enough is enough. You know what else I hear? I hear this, well, I kind of like what he's trying to do, but there's no plan. And it seems very chaotic.
And what do they think he's trying to do?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people voted for him to lower prices. And he's talked a lot about these tariffs. People don't typically understand what tariffs are or what they do, but they can definitely tell that the prices ain't being lowered, you know.
Mhm.
A lot of people voted for him because, he said he would make America safer and all this stuff. But, when they see pictures of federal agents with masks, raiding American cities and throwing, fathers of veterans to the ground and, dragging them, detaining them, that isn't what they voted for. They voted for people to go after criminals. And the problem is what you're seeing is they're not going after criminals. They might get a few, but they're going after Americans and they're going after people who are just trying to live their lives here in really sort of brutal ways that is sort of beyond what I think a lot of people feel is necessary.
So we're talking about affordability, which obviously is a big issue. Overall, what are your signature issues? If elected, what would you focus on first?
Yeah. Well, the first one is the economy. And it should be. It's the kitchen table issues that everybody really cares about, 100% of Americans and Kentuckians. And so for me and for Kentucky, it's these tariffs because Kentucky is very dependent on international trade. Of all of the states in the union, we have the second highest dependency on international trade because we have the second highest per capita spending and exports. Much higher than, say, Texas or California or New York, and that's per capita. And so these tariffs really hurt us. And as I mentioned before, it hurts our farmers, our soybean farmers. Our beef farmers are being hurt right now. Our bourbon industry is being hurt right now, and it's for no apparent reason, right? I mean, the president sees a video from Canada that he doesn't like. And then he just, changes the tariff rates. It's crazy. My businesses here in Kentucky, they don't know, they can't plan. They don't know what to expect. And so the signature issue for me is, hey, these Republicans that you put in power, they didn't just fail to make things better. They intentionally made things worse with these tariffs. And Donald Trump has sold you out. And the number one thing we need to do is repeal tariffs because they're a double tax on us. That and the healthcare piece. And again, it's promises made, promises broken. These Republicans and Trump, they said they weren't going to go after Medicare. Guess what they're doing? They're going after Medicare. They said they wouldn't go after Medicaid. They just went after Medicaid. They said they wouldn't go after Connect. Connect, Andy, is our equivalent, Kentucky's equivalent of the Affordable Care Act exchanges. We have a Democratic governor. We expanded Medicaid. We embraced the Affordable Care Act, and we got a lot of Kentuckians health care for the first time. And now all of that is being ripped away. And people are seeing that. They're going to see their rural hospital potentially close. And that is the difference between life and death. It's like if your dad has a heart attack now and you're in a rural county, you can drive him 10 minutes to the hospital. In a couple of years, if that happens, it's 2 hours. It's 3 hours. And so those two things are the issues that I think are really important to Kentucky that I'm going to be constantly talking about.
And so you're running to fill the open seat vacated by the retiring Mitch McConnell, good riddance. You ran for the Senate back in 2020 against McConnell and you lost. we're talking about a lot of the things that have changed. Do you think there's enough change in the overall economy and political landscape, both in Kentucky and nationwide,
I
to
do. I think the
make
dynamics
voters
of
want a Democratic senator in the state of Kentucky, which there hasn't been one in a very
a
long
couple
time?
decades,
Yeah.
right? But we do have a Democratic governor
Mm-hmm.
who won statewide in
That's
an
very
off cycle,
popular. Yeah.
very
Andy,
popular.
Andy Bashir.
And he does it by focusing on the very issues that I just mentioned, the sort of kitchen table issues every single day. And he's been very good, and people here see that. I do think this is different. This is different than 2020. 2020 was 6 years ago, different. First of all, I couldn't campaign in 2020. If you remember what happened that year,
Yeah.
COVID. So right when we were about ready to go out, and if anybody knows anything about Kentucky, it's really hard to win here if you cannot physically show up in places, and that was a challenge. But I think
And Mitch McConnell was way more popular, way more effective, and way more hard to beat. You know, I mean, that's the
it was
reality
hard to
of
be
Kentucky.
because, when COVID hits, you're passing the relief bills, you're trying to, and he did go through with that. It took him a while, but he did do that.
It was
and it's
still
just
his party, his Senate, though. He still had that
Mhm.
grip, and that's
Right.
why I agree with you. I think it is kind of
Yeah.
open season and presenting a new opportunity for someone like you.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a midterm. I'm not fighting with a lot of politics is the top of the ticket, right? The top of the ballot. And when 2020, there was a presidential year, and Kentucky was a very pro-Trump state. So you have a lot of more voters that come out. It's just different in a midterm when you're at the top of the ticket. I think that's a very different dynamic.
And you've said that Kentucky's open seat is, quote, it will decide the balance of power in the Senate. How confident are you that that seat is winnable and flippable?
Well, if I didn't think it was winnable or flippable, I wouldn't be running,
Mm-hmm.
because running for office isn't a rose garden, and it's not super duper fun in today's day and age. It's hard on your family. It's a tough thing. And so when I look at this race, though, I think this is a real opportunity, because we have a Democratic governor, because it's a midterm, because of all the things that are going on right now with the tariffs and the ripping away of healthcare and rural healthcare in particular. And I think there is enough there to be able to win this seat, to be able to say, enough Kentuckians to say, I may be conservative, I may be a Republican, but this isn't what I voted for. And in order to stop this from happening, we've got to vote for somebody who, frankly, my motto has always been country over party.
Mhm.
It's always been that, Kentucky over party. I am an American first. And what I'm telling people, and what I've been going around the state talking to people, is I'm going to represent you, not a party. It's about Kentucky. It's about the hardworking people who are here. And so, I mean, look, I think it's winnable, or I wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, look, any student of history knows that in politics, things change all the time. Richard Nixon ran against JFK famously, was humiliated, sweaty, and crawled under a rock for a few years, came back, 68. The country was different like it is today. Times changed, people changed, and he went on to win the next two presidential elections in 68 and 72. So,
Plenty of candidates have lost. I asked Bernie Sanders how many times he ran. Ask
right.
Steve Beshear, who was our governor here, how many times he ran before he actually won. So I think, look, running a statewide race and not succeeding does not mean you can't run a statewide race and win. I just think that's crazy.
I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you what your feelings are on the Democrats' leadership.
Yeah. I Okay, two things. One, to be clear, I haven't been focused on the leadership of the party because they're not focused on Kentucky and I'm not focused on them. And that's really a cool place to be because I don't care what party leaders say. I've never been controlled by a person or a party. And, you can kind of contrast that with everybody running on the Republican side. But that said, look, I think that, and I've said this for a while, I think our party leadership needs to change. I think that we need a new generation of leaders in this country. I've said that for a long time. And I think that the fact that you have, leaders who are aging and appear to be out of touch, it hurts us. And that's not a partisan thing to say. It's on both. I mean, Mitch McConnell is kind of the perfect example of that.
Well, it just seems like I don't want to sound ageist, but their old folks seem to have the upper hand against our old folks. So I do think it's party related, but I couldn't agree more. And even in the House, I mean, Hakeem Jeffries was supposed to be the future. And there's a lot of people, myself included, that have had a lack of confidence in his ability to lead us through this crisis we're in.
It's hard when you don't have any power,
Well, optics is a lot. I mean, when I watch politicians on TV, and we can use Mitch McConnell as a perfect example. Over the years, when Mitch McConnell didn't like something, you knew it. He was angry, and he showed his anger when he would say, and then you get Chuck Schumer, when he's angry, he's like, listen, this thing is terrible, and then I'm going to send a strongly worded letter, and you sit back and you're like, what is happening here? Can you guys, you have no power, but can you at least sound powerful, right? And that's what
fair.
I think is,
that's fair.
That's what I think is missing, which is to your comparison to Bernie Sanders. Look at what Bernie Sanders and AOC are doing right now. Look at what Mamdani is doing right now. They are sounding powerful. They are pushing back. They are sounding like they're not afraid of Trump. They sound like they're going to go after Trump, and they're pushing the right messages. And they're not necessarily progressive messages because they're actually speaking.
Right. A lot of it is very, kitchen table stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's like we do have Democrats in the party that do know how to connect with people in a very authentic way about the things that people, as we're talking about, care about.
Abigail Spanberger, Mikey Sherrill.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, those elections coming up are super important. And I think I look at the two of them, I think they are the future of Democratic leadership.
Well, I also love the fact that, like Mikey Sherrill, yourself, people like Kate Conley, who's running for New York 17th Congressional District, talking combat veterans, strong, powerful women who are speaking with their careers to the type of things we need today. And I just hope that the voters, those at home who, putting aside the economy, which is a major issue, who care about national security, national defense, country before party. I just hope that at the end of the day, people go, and that's why I'm going to vote for Amy, instead of the fallback, which is, I voted Republican my whole life, blah, blah, blah.
I 100% agree. I think it's folks like Mikey, Abigail, perhaps myself, to be able to say, because we have the credibility to say, look, Trump's unsteady leadership in the world puts us at risk. We have collectively spent decades defending our country. And I can tell you that none of us would ever roll the red carpet out for Vladimir Putin. Okay. And we understand the threats that face our country, Russian aggression, the Chinese threatening behavior, the Iranian sponsored terrorism. We understand these are major problems. We also understand that to keep the strongest, most advanced, smartest military in the world, you've got to fill it with the most talented, dedicated Americans. And that strength isn't just about weapons. Gutting the State Department is dumb with capital D, dumb. Okay. Gutting our intelligence and making it more somehow this loyalty thing to the president is dumb. And it is going to put our national security at risk. And I could go on all day about that. That isn't, those topics are important. They may not be the top of what Kentuckians are thinking about. So this is why I always talk about the economy most of the time. But believe me, it's there. And for some people, it is very important. And I will definitely not lose any of that.
Sure. And to your point, I mean, we saw that on display this week with Trump's trip to Asia. You know, it's become a thing where, like, before Trump ever lands in a foreign country, there's probably a cabinet meeting that takes place, and they're like, okay, what can we give him? What would be the best gift? What can we bribe him with or flatter him with? Because that's his foreign policy. And so we
Sure.
don't have a leader in the White House. We don't have a commander in chief. We have somebody who's governing by id and ego and whim.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's terrifying. And
It
you
is
see what he's doing.
terrifying. And, you know, meanwhile, we've got the government shut down. Federal workers aren't being paid. Our air traffic control is not being paid. Our military is about ready to not be paid. We've got food stamp SNAP being cut from people, healthcare being cut from people. And meanwhile, this guy is building a $350 million gold-plated ballroom and naming it after himself. It's outrageous. It's outrageous.
Well, let's talk about some of the things that have been happening. He just ordered the military to begin nuclear testing after 3 decades. What does that mean to you?
Very, very, very dangerous. I think what people need to understand is that the United States, when it was once a leader in the world, was the country that pushed for the rest of the world to never detonate a nuclear weapon ever again. And that the last time we ever tested a nuclear weapon was back in the 1990s. And we were the ones that said enough is enough. And we created a treaty called the CTBT. And the rest of the world signed on to that. And since then, every country has abided by it, with the exception of North Korea. Okay, and that's why they're a pariah. And so for the president to now say we're going to test nuclear weapons, first of all, it's unnecessary. We don't need it. We already have the best, strongest arsenal in the world as a deterrent. So we don't need it. And then second, it's a huge provocation to Russia and China. I mean, how are they going to respond to this? We're basically starting another Cold War that we don't need. So it's a very, very dangerous. And for the president to say, well, we need to do this because the Russians tested a nuclear-powered cruise missile. Folks, there's a difference between nuclear-powered something. We have nuclear-powered submarines, okay, for example, and a nuclear weapon that goes boom. Very different. So testing a nuclear submarine or a nuclear powered something is not the same thing as testing or detonating a weapon. And I think this also shows the president's ignorance here. It's very, very dangerous.
And but doesn't it take years to set up that kind of testing? Like, is this something that, not that we shouldn't be concerned about it, but just logistically to make it happen? Aren't we talking about something that is so far down the road if he was going to make this happen?
Well,
that
it's very expensive.
That alone means it may not actually not happen.
Right. It would be very expensive, be very damaging to the environment. I mean, where do you test nuclear blasts? Right. We in the 1940s and 50s, we tested them in the open air. So we tested them in places like New Mexico. And then when it got so big and we didn't want to do it on our own soil, we went out to the South Pacific and we demolished islands in the South Pacific with massive problems to the environment there. We moved people out of those islands. And to this day, we're still, those folks are still paying the price for that. And then we looked at it and said, well, this is really bad. And so we moved the testing underground. But even that has massive ramifications to our natural environment. I mean, nuclear weapons are no joke. And so testing them again is a very dangerous thing. It's something we do not want to do. It's also something we don't want the rest of the world to do. Again, we used to be the leader. And now we're not. This is just crazy what is happening.
Yeah. And what Trump also this week said that he has the right to do whatever he wants and that courts will not stop him. And this includes sending in any or all branches of active duty military into U.S. cities. How illegal is this, number one? And how dangerous is this rhetoric?
Well, it's not legal. The active duty forces cannot be involved in domestic policing. It's part of what was called the Posse Comitatus Act that was passed over 100 years ago, and it has a lot of history behind it. The president can use active duty military if he invokes what's called the Insurrection Act, which is also has a long history. You can only invoke that if in times of insurrection, in times that the government is about ready to be toppled over. And that's not happening right now. So it would be illegal for him to do it. But the concern, of course, is who's going to stop him? We have a Supreme Court that's basically given him immunity for everything. And the military is put in a really tough position here because the military is supposed to follow orders. But what happens if those orders are, if the Supreme Court has given the president immunity, then every single order that he orders is legal. I mean, you could make that case, which is exactly what they're going to try to do. And so, yes, I'm very concerned about it. I think it's very dangerous. We should not be using the military against the American people or here. That is a basic American principle since 1776. It was one of the reasons that we declared independence from, the crown. So I feel like this is a big deal. We have to keep watching and keep talking about this and pushing back 100%.
And along these lines, also this week, the Pentagon ordered the National Guard to establish, quote, quick reaction forces. This is around 500 troops in all 50 U.S. states, the District of Columbia, U.S. territories. And this would be to deal with civil unrest and riots. And they'd be trained in the use of batons, body shields, tasers, pepper sprays. It sounds like the United States president is like gearing up to go to war with our own cities and our own citizens.
Well, I think it shows you, one, why are they doing this if they're not expecting problems? It's almost like they want problems to happen.
Oh, sure. He's
so that,
problems.
they can send the military in. And let's be clear, this isn't what people sign up to do when they go in the National Guard. Okay.
Well, that's what I want to ask you, because I'm always interested in what are the Guards people, what are they thinking when they're standing in these cities? Are they thinking like, wow, this is not what I signed up for. I'm missing my family. I'm missing my kids, my job. Like, what am I doing here? And do you get a sense that that's happening?
Well, I think that people that wear the uniform, and I was one of them for 24 years, they put their lives on the line, and they want to make sure, though, that the leaders are using them appropriately. If you're asking me to go away from my family for a month or 6 weeks or more, there better be a reason for it. That's not just a political photo op, guarding the Lincoln Memorial, from tourists or whatever it is that, picking up trash in Washington, D.C. If you're asking me as a guardsman to leave my job for that amount of time, it better be for a reason. And so I think there's some resentment there from a lot of Guards people who are looking at this and saying, okay, what's the purpose here? I think people really do, they want to be used if there's a natural disaster and they can be helpful. That's like, hey, we're going to help our fellow Americans. Okay, this is what I signed up to do. I signed up to serve. I didn't sign up to be a political prop. And the other thing about it is they didn't sign up to be policemen. If they wanted to be policemen, they would have gone into the police force. The military is trained and equipped for war, not policing. And I've always said, look, we should not have our military policing our streets like we're some third world country. And I hear that actually from voters here, independents and Republicans. That I hear that, that they get it.
I think they do. And I think when you combine the economic realities that they're living under and roll it all up, I mean, I hear and I see people talking, voters, Republican voters, independents, like they're exhausted, like everybody else. It's like you said before, enough with the shit that's impacting my family in terms of healthcare and the economy, jobs, inflation, the food prices I pay for everything, as well as the stuff I'm seeing on my TV that's happening elsewhere in the country. It's just enough of this chaos. Yeah, chaos. So I that gives me hope that
it's self-inflicted chaos.
Yeah.
And I think one of the perfect examples, not to bring it back to the economy again, but one of the perfect examples of this is the soybeans thing with China. Okay. The tariffs that Donald Trump instituted hurt our farmers, crushed their soybean crops. Many of them are going bankrupt right now. And now the president goes to China, and these Republicans are touting his deal for the China to buy the soybeans. The deal is the exact same thing they had last year or less. So there's like
still 45%.
We shot ourselves in the foot, okay, to come back and wrap the foot back up and say, look, I fixed the foot. I mean, for what?
No, right. You're referring to what he does all the time, which is he's the arsonist who puts out his own fire and claims to be a hero.
Right. I mean, we got nothing out of it. The Chinese haven't changed their intellectual property problems. They haven't changed, any of the ways that they're doing in the South China Sea. They haven't changed it. They haven't changed a thing.
They didn't even discuss any of that stuff. Yeah. The major issues weren't even discussed between him and Xi. So, but he solved 8 wars, right? Like there doesn't need to be any truth or reality to anything he says or does. It just is what he says. He's a sociopath and he's a liar. And he's got a great group of sycophants around him who promote his bullshit. And he's got a very effective right-wing media ecosystem that also is very effective in spreading the lies and the propaganda. So, and ultimately he has a very brainwashed, call it 30% of the public who, like he said 10 years ago, if I shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, I will not lose support. No matter what he does, it doesn't matter. So if he says this is a great deal with China, we won, Trump won. Wow, look at that. He's such a great deal maker. In the meantime, there's chaos at home. We're day 31 of a shutdown. We're 24 hours away from SNAP and WIC benefits being lost. As you said earlier, there are people going to be signing up for their ACA new plans tomorrow and seeing ridiculously high increases in their premiums because of the expiring subsidies and the Medicare issues you talked about. So, but he's off playing in Asia and getting crowns and more recommendations for the Nobel Peace Prize.
And the Republican Party, which was once the party of small government, once the party of free trade, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, what happened to
is no longer conservative. They're increasingly authoritarian, centrally planned tariffs. Really? The Republican Party would never have been for something like that years ago. Military patrols in U.S. cities, police raids on homes of government critics, mass detentions without due process. The government taking control of private companies and pressuring universities, the concentration of power into one man. This is just not anything that I thought the Republican Party ever stood for when I was in the military. It's very dangerous right now.
Party before country, or king before country. That's where we've come. My last question is about the shutdown. We saw this week that Senate Majority Leader John Thune gave a very angry speech. He's getting a lot of props for that. Oh my God, this is so out of character for him. He's such a mild-mannered guy, and he was so upset. It was aimed at Democrats. But can we just level set here? Okay, for the folks at home listening, to the people in Kentucky who might be listening, especially Republicans and independents, with Republicans in total control of government and still playing the our way or the highway game, this is their shutdown, is it not?
Yeah, totally. First of all, it's part of the total chaos that they're unleashing on us right now. I think, any shutdown should be blamed on Congress as a whole, okay? But normally you see this with split party control, where you have the House is controlled by Democrats and the Senate is controlled by Republicans or vice versa. But I think it's really telling that you're seeing this right now happen with the Republicans controlling everything. They control the House, they control the Senate, they control the White House, they arguably control the Supreme Court. And we're still seeing this massive shutdown. And it's because, they had 9 months to figure this out and didn't do it. And then when the deadline hit, what did they do, Andy? They left town. They didn't stay to negotiate. They all went on vacation, and they're still getting a paycheck. And here's the thing. Most Kentuckians, most Americans do not follow the day-to-day back and forth food fights, from Congress. They may not even be following the fact that Congress is out of session. But people inherently know these guys aren't doing their job and they're still getting a paycheck. Give me a break.
Yeah, look, if I was a moderate Republican or any kind of Republican or an independent in Kentucky or elsewhere, I would literally just be saying, like, okay, so you guys told me I can't get the shit I need for me and my family unless we put you guys in charge of everything, right? Now I give you that power, that control, and you're telling me I still can't get the shit I need because of Chuck Schumer? If that's the message they're giving people in your state and others.
And the other thing is, the American people have been asked in many polls, what do you care more about? Do you care about, there's the shutdown and there's this fact that the Affordable Care Act subsidies are going to go away, which is what Democrats are fighting for, to prevent. And people don't want to see their premium skyrocket, and so, the Democrats are taking a stand on that. And I mean, this is where we're at, but the Republicans own it because they are in control and they need to be negotiating. They need to be working. They certainly don't need to be paid during this time. I've always said this is a perfect example why we need term limits. I don't know how you feel about that, but I never used to be for them, 10 or 15 years ago, but now
we
I
have
am.
it for our president. Why wouldn't we have it for Congress?
Right. And the Supreme Court justices. I mean,
Right.
things, I look at people who are against term limits and I think, what, do you think things are going well right now? Really? I mean, let's try it.
Well, I think I think voters are smart now. I really do. And I think that's why all the polls show that voters are blaming Republicans overwhelmingly for the shutdown. I think that's why Trump's own polling is the lowest it's been. And I think people are fed up. And so hopefully you're going to get into the Senate.
It's really hard to blame the people who are not in power.
Right.
When when you're in power, you have the responsibility to run the government.
Yeah. Sounds simple, doesn't it? Anything else you want to say about the campaign?
Well, look, I'm excited about it. I do think Kentucky is an important race to watch. Don't count out Kentucky. We have a Democratic governor. This is a midterm. This is an important race. It's an open seat. So if people want to get involved, it's amymcgrath.com. We're going to be out there every day until the election of 2026, making the case that we need to check this president and making the case that, we need to bring back some common sense to our government.
Yeah. What a beautiful thing for our future it would be if we could replace Mitch McConnell with Amy McGrath. Where can people go to support you?
amymcgrath.com. That's my website, but I'm on all the social media platforms and all that. But that's definitely where they can support. And you know, it's important. We got to get in there.
Amy, thanks for coming on. Come back again soon and keep us updated on the campaign. Good luck.
You bet. Thanks,
All righty,
Andy.
take care.